Shauna, thank you so much for being here for the annual Sugar Challenge. And we have a special group here to kind of talk through the tips and tricks on how to be successful.
Yay. Thanks for having me, Katie, always a pleasure. And this is my third Sugar Challenge with Vera. So I'm one of the wellness coaches with Vera. So I'm super excited. I had a couple slides to kind of go over like who we are and our expertise, but I just want to invite everyone to the Backstage Paths to Success with the NAPEP Sugar Challenge, based on the fact that I've gone through this twice before, and I've talked with a lot of people as their coach while they're going through it, and just kind of collected a lot of just tips and tricks and information that I thought might be helpful.
And just so everyone knows, Shauna is a musician. So I said, it's not fair to have a group about a Sugar Challenge without music. So Shauna has agreed to potentially offer a song. You want to tell them about that?
Okay, so as a wellness coach, I'm always looking for motivation for folks to follow through with a goal. So Katie and I were thinking, what if we kind of had this challenge to you all that if you stick with us for the 3 weeks and follow through with the challenge, that I would be willing on our last group to bring in my guitar and serenade you all with a song.
Yay!
So the challenge has been set. There's a new motivator on the horizon. If it's of interest to you to be serenaded with a song, I will do it as long as y'all will hang out with us.
Thank you, Shauna.
So, all right. So if you can see my screen, I'm going to go to the next slide, which is for Katie. And it was working before. There you go. Katie, do you just want to talk about like who you are and how come it's so cool that you're here?
I'm really here just to add context. I've been doing the Sugar Challenge for nearly 8 years. I have a lot of experience in helping hundreds of people through it, and I've seen a lot of outcomes, and I've seen a lot. So I'm just here to support the conversation. But essentially, I am the wellness program manager. I have been doing that for 8 years. I also have a lot more experience in just behavior change in general, because I also do coaching, or not coaching, but I guide people through changes, and I also work with juveniles and all sorts of things. And I have a master's degree in positive psychology, which just means that I love a lot of it is in the head, right? It's the thoughts, it's the beliefs, it's the patterns that go on here that sort of dictate our behavior. So that's what I bring to the table, and I'm happy to chat with you all.
And then my name is Shauna Bowen. I have a master's in counseling psychology with an emphasis in holistic health and psychosomatic psychology. I have 20 years experience working with change behavior. And a lot of that had to do with kind of like working in the addiction realm and really trying to stop ingesting something, whether it was alcohol or cocaine or whatever. But I've found it interesting through the years to see how sugar kind of can parallel some of that. So I bring that to all of you. I've been working with corporate wellness for about 7 years, very interested in corporate wellness. And personally, I just wanted to share with you all, I usually don't talk about this in other places, but I've lost 50 pounds and I've kept it off for about 10 years. And a big part of that was healing my relationship with sugar. So I kind of bring a personal slant to this particular challenge and my interest and excitement with this challenge. Yeah. So I basically have 3 slides. The prep. So for those of you who have kind of read through the materials or are getting ready to, the actual challenge starts this Monday. So prepping, that's why Katie and I wanted to do one of the groups before the challenge started, is to really kind of help set yourself up for success. So the prep, and I'm just going to kind of go through these slides. After each slide, we can open it up for questions, comments, and then I'll go to the next. But I just have 3 slides to get us going. So a couple things right off the top that are going to help you get the high sugar dessert items out of the house, or at least away from you. I understand there are a lot of different household sharing situations out there. And I know we just came off the holidays and there might be, I don't know, extra Christmas cookies or whatever might be going on. I highly recommend that those kind of dessert items, if you can get them out of the house, awesome. But if the rest of the family is not quite on board or wants to continue to eat the Christmas cookies, that if you could somehow at least have an agreement with the people that you share home with, if there's a way to kind of put it somewhere so it's not right out in front of you. I have spoken with many NAPEP participants in the coaching program that the rest of the family doesn't want to change how they eat, but this person does. And so working with success strategies around, can the rest of the family agree that the chips and cookies are in a cupboard so they're not in front of you? So if there's a way to kind of just negotiate the high dessert sugar items to help you with success, is right off the top what I would suggest. Another big one that I have just seen a lot of people have success with instantly: don't drink your sugar. Any of the high sugar soda drinks, even the high sugar non-carbonated drinks like the Gatorades and stuff like that, one of those already knocks you out of the recommended sugar for the day. So I would suggest, if you can practice or even cut down on sugar soda or sugar drinks, and try and replace them with things like iced tea, flavored soda water without the sugar. That's another big way to just cut a lot of sugar right out of your daily intake of sugar. Hidden sugars. Take a look at the breads, the crackers, the processed food, and the fast foods. I know if you've signed up for the challenge that you've been given some worksheets on how to read labels. So really check out, these can be kind of like, oh, I'm eating a whole wheat bread. It's healthy, right? And they're depending on what brand you use, there could be a lot of hidden sugar in it. So just kind of taking a look at where some kind of the second cut of where sugars might be. Be mindful when eating out. Things like salad dressings or their breads could be full of sugar, and to be a little mindful about that as you go through the sugar challenge.
And I just wanted to add in, like, remember that sugar challenge doesn't mean no sugar. All she's saying is, if you're going to have sugar, make it worth it,
Oh, totally.
Like, have that brownie, right? Don't waste it on a whole wheat piece of bread that has 5 grams of sugar in it, right? Like, so it's just being more mindful and choosing intentionally where you eat your sugar and make it worth it.
Totally. I think drinking sugar is such a waste. If I had my choice between a soda or a brownie, I'm going for the brownie. I've really gotten into the habit to not drink my sugar. And then the eating out. Yeah, salad dressings can be full of sugar. You might have this amazing salad and think you're doing the right thing, and then literally ate like 50 grams of sugar because of the salad dressing. Definitely look at the tip handouts that you were given. Lots of good stuff, and it teaches you how to read labels. So take a look at the information that was given to you. And I would figure out some sort of way to track it. And Katie, I had a question to you. Is there a tracker in their wellness site, or do they need to kind of figure out their own way of tracking? And then it's more of like, I did the challenge today or this week.
So as far as tracking sugar, we didn't put that in the site because when we did, people didn't use it because they had to log in to do it. So we found employees are more successful, though, if you have a smartphone, just download an app. You can download MyFitnessPal, and it will help you track your sugars. Okay. So that's a great app that most employees recommend. They also have other apps. There's one, I forget the name of it right now, but basically you take a picture of what you ate, and it'll recognize what it is you ate, and it'll help give you an estimate of what the sugars were in that. But it'll ask you things like, was there honey on that? Stuff like that. And then we also give you a link to a paper tracker, which is basically just a piece of paper with, the whole little spreadsheet, and you could just write down how many grams of sugar you ate that day. And don't forget to look at the serving size. One thing I get people telling me all the time is, I feel so guilty because I ate cookies. And I'm like, well, that's okay. Just look at the serving size. Look how much sugar is in it. Eat 2.
Mm-hmm.
and then enjoy it and don't feel guilty about it because
Yeah.
that's within your daily amount.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So this is definitely a part of the prep, is figure out how you're going to track. Start getting ready on how to read labels. And also grocery shopping. I believe that there's some sort of a list in the, okay, cool. So look at the materials, read through them, and this weekend, really figure out if your grocery list, how it's going to change to set yourself up for success. Cool.
And I wanted to pause here and say that when she's talking about getting sugar out of the house, absolutely, it's always going to be easier if your family member agrees to just get it out of the house.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to put it in a little box and put it in a hidden place that you don't know about, that's hugely helpful. But also be prepared with a replacement. The first time I did this, 3 days in, I was like, I'm going to murder someone unless I get some sugar. And in that moment, I had to have something. So remember, natural sugars are okay. Have some raspberries, have an apple, like go ahead and do something like that. And have a replacement prepared. And even if you're going super hardcore, because I know some employees that are like, no sugar, for the challenge, that's fine. But have some pecans with a little cinnamon on top. Cinnamon is your friend. It tricks your brain into thinking you're eating something sweet.
Nice. Good tricks. I'll have to add that to my list of tricks. Yeah, definitely a success strategy. If you're taking away a behavior, if you can replace it with something that's not as harmful, always a good thing. So like with the trying to do iced tea or a flavored soda water instead of the sugar sodas. If you have a habit of some sort of a sweet after lunch or dinner, like Katie said, if you can find something else so you're still kind of doing the habit with something that doesn't have the added sugar, that's a really good success strategy, as opposed to white knuckling it and not feel spending hours like, oh man, I wish I could have just, if you can do a replacement, that can help. So I want to stop after each of these slides. So with the prep, I just want to open it up for questions.
I don't see any chats.
And just unmute if you want to just say something.
We also want to make this time to say, if you've done this before and you've come against a wall and you would like to talk about like, hey, how do I overcome that obstacle? We're here for that as well.
Definitely.
And I wanted to point out one thing, which is if you're doing this challenge and you're like, I ate a bowl of ice cream and definitely went over the recommended that day, I'm just going to stop the challenge because I failed. Remember, there is no failure. One day does not mean failure. It just means that day, did you track your sugar? You can still get a point that week for tracking your sugar, even if you went over. Did you add greens to each meal? You didn't have to add greens to your ice cream to still get greens in each meal, right? And so you just might not get a point for staying within the recommendations, right? But that doesn't mean you can't try again the next day.
Right.
It's okay. Have self-compassion. I did get a comment, which is, can you repeat the app? Yeah, I will actually type it into the chat box for everyone as well, but it's actually called MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal. A lot of people like that app. Also, there are other unique apps and there's new ones every year, and you can even look up like photo food tracking and things like that, and you'll find all sorts of cool apps that can help you. But MyFitnessPal is one that a lot of employees like.
Cool. Also, if you have a really good trick or tip yourself along this journey of these groups, we will definitely make sure we will offer time and be like, anyone out there having success, what's your best tip for the week, so we can kind of share with each other and learn from each other. All right, so let's go beyond the prep. And I want to go to my next, there we go. All right, what to expect. Depending on the normal intake of sugar that you have. So this may be different for everyone, and I don't want to doom and gloom anybody. My intention is to normalize so that you don't get down on yourself or feel like you're going a little crazy. So I'm just going to offer some things that I noticed when I was working with cutting down sugar or stopping added sugar, and what I have worked through with other people. If you are eating a lot of sugar and you kind of abruptly stop on Monday, you might experience really intense cravings for sugar or bready or carby types of stuff. Usually that will go away within about 3 days, like the real heavy grip. So I always, when I go into this, if I've been eating sugar for a while, let's say I'm on vacation or whatever, and there's been more carbs and sugar and I kind of get back to my norm, I kind of gear myself up that the first 3 days may be a little difficult, and then I might experience cravings, and then I need to be a little more thoughtful and patient with myself to move through not indulging in the craving and kind of staying with what I had committed to kind of eat less sugar. So if you can just hang tight for 3 days, I'm going to predict that the kind of heavy, intense craving will go away for sugar, and it's going to start to kind of take the grip off.
And a little hack for that intense craving is healthy fats. So if you have access to some olives, an avocado, anything that is pecans, some sort of healthy fat, those help you feel full and can curb that craving for the time being. And again, if you just can't shake it, have an orange, but that is definitely going to be helpful. Have healthy fats on deck.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. There might be a little bit of withdrawal. You might be a little grumpy, possibly a headache. Some people, they call it the carb flu. Like if someone is just really, their entire diet is made up of like sugar and carbohydrates, when they bring those down, they kind of feel a little sick. Again, this would be normal. I'm not predicting this will happen. It may. And so I just want to say it up front that this could be something that happens. And if it is, drink more water, rest, be patient with yourself, eating those healthy fats for the satiation, make sure you're eating throughout the day. Just because you're limiting your sugar doesn't mean you're eating cauliflower and broccoli for the day. Like eat. And that should help with maybe a little bit of a withdrawal if you're kind of feeling that. But I know that water, rest, and good food and those healthy fats can definitely help. So again, you may not experience this at all, but I want to normalize it if it starts to if it kind of comes up next week. Also, you might feel like you are hungry, but it's just a craving. So I wanted to bring out, a lot of times people are very confused that talk with me that are in coaching that are trying to change their eating, that they just had this huge salad. And it had lots of cool stuff in it. And it was like this big, huge salad. And they're telling me that they're hungry an hour and a half later. And so we talk about what is true hunger and what is a craving. So I thought that might be helpful for all of you, is that true hunger is when you have a discomfort here. And I don't know if you can see my video, but if you can't, I'm putting my hand kind of under my throat where the top of my chest is, where the breastbone is, that there is a discomfort that starts there. Anything else is actually a craving. And I'm going to go way into more detail about what are cravings and where they come from next week. But I just want to normalize, if you want to start playing around with what is true hunger, which is it's time to eat, and what is a craving, if you feel that discomfort around your chest bone and throat, perhaps it's time to eat something healthy. If you just ate and you're feeling this want to, and usually it's going to be the foods we tend to crave are going to be sugar, carbs, or dairy, or salt. Those tend to be the ones. I have never had a severe craving for broccoli, ever.
Or sardines.
It just, That doesn't seem to ever come up. I wish it did, but it seems to be kind of the ones we're trying to cut down. And I will go way into more detail about microbiomes and cravings and what's going on there next week. But I just want to kind of normalize that. You might want to play around with what is hunger and how often are you having a craving and eating, or can you just move through a craving, get busy doing something else, drink some more water. And I've got some more tips and tricks on the next slide regarding how to move through a craving. I think I had one more thing. Yeah. You might become a little more emotional during this. Katie's like, yep. So again, have a little grace with yourself, a little patience, maybe warn your family ahead of time. I certainly warn my husband and my stepson and my pets if I'm going through kind of like, okay, I'm back to some clean eating and I know there's going to be a little bit of some withdrawal. I kind of warn my family I might be a little more sensitive and vulnerable and to kind of give me a little space if I need it. So again, this might happen. You might find yourself being a little more emotional, and that can kind of go along with a slight withdrawal from sugar.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, not only is it common to be a little more emotional, that definitely was the case for the first time I really did sort of a sugar detox of sorts. Started crying and yelling at my husband because there was a clicking in the ceiling fan. But the point is, every time I did it after that, it was a little bit easier. The first time it was, I felt emotional. I even got lightheaded. But then afterward, my blood pressure normalized. My emotions actually felt more normalized after in general. So, and then every time I did it after that, it was actually easier each year. My body was a little bit more accustomed to less sugar in general, and the switch didn't feel so intense. So just wanted to give you a little encouragement if it's your first time, that it's not that hard every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can attest to that too, that it does get easier as you go. Because I think your body just, it kind of reaches these new levels of, oh, okay, you're cutting back a little bit, but it's not like going to be this huge shift. But for someone where this might be a pretty big shift, easy does it. Practice on perfection. We're all friends here. So I wanted to stay here for a second and ask if there's any comments, questions, anything else that anyone else has experienced if they've cut down on their sugar before we move on.
I definitely agree with the healthy fats part of it, that the times when I thought, oh, I'm just going to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, but it left me hollow when I didn't have enough balance to it. So between that and then like a salad with like some healthy chicken and an avocado in it, oh my gosh, it's perfect. It was shocking how effective that was.
Yeah, if I really noticed, if it's just like for me, if I'm just doing just veggies, if it, adding some sort of satiating oil or protein like avocado, that's my favorite go-to to just kind of help satiate clean eating, because avocado is clean eating. So yeah, and also I like to just a handful of cashews or almonds in the salad or with a meal. Can be really helpful. Thanks, Megan.
I also wanted to mention that when you're going through this, you might find yourself suddenly eating a little bit more potatoes, a little bit more grapes, and while those are natural sugars, just notice when you're craving, when you start piling those on, it's time to, add more healthy fats. And, if you're like, for me, I can't eat all nuts. I have a lot of limitations. So I eat meat. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, especially if you can get good quality meat. So remember that that's also satiating as well, if you're a meat eater. And just notice and try not to eat more, bread and potatoes than you did before.
Yes. All right. Anyone else before we move on? I'm looking at the chat too. Okay. And we'll also open up at the end as well. Lastly, some strategies. Okay, so think about your motivators. So I really wanted to just pause. As a wellness coach, drive and motivation creates success. So at some point today or through this weekend when you're prepping, I want you to fill a piece of paper with all the reasons that you want to be successful with this, all the reasons to cut down on sugar, even do some research. I just watched again the documentary movie Fed Up. If you are looking for reasons to cut down on your sugar, watch that movie. And you need to really like allow a good 20 minutes before it gets to the strategies and what's going on, that they really kind of introduce a couple children and families that are struggling with weight gain, and just watch what they think, watch how they believe with food, and then they get into what's going on. If you're looking for motivation, watch Fed Up. And then once you watch Fed Up, there's all these other documentaries regarding sugar in food that come up. And I watched Fed Up. I saw it on Amazon Prime for like $3.99. So really talk about motivators. I want to feel less pain in my joints. If I lose weight, I can get back into a closet full of clothes. I want to be able to move easier with my grandkids. Whatever it is that's driving you to follow through, motivation and keeping what we call motivators in kind of your forefront. Like, look at this piece of paper daily. This is why I'm going to stick with this. It will definitely help with success. So definitely right off the top, really emphasize what's motivating you to follow through.
I wanted to add to that, a little hack is don't watch cable TV with commercials. You'll receive within an hour at least 10 triggers or cues to eat something high in sugar. So if you can avoid commercials, that would be really helpful, you know, and then you can put your little motivators on sticky notes and put it by your TV so that you can not biohack, but like environmentally hack your triggers and cues. So it's cueing you on why you're doing what you're doing, and you're offsetting those other cues you might be receiving.
I love it. Yeah. I didn't know that. I don't have cable TV, and I have not been bombarded by that kind of, I didn't realize. Yeah. And if there is some sort of a commercial like on Hulu, I notice I do get triggered, and I'm really good at grabbing that cue, noticing it, and then I put it aside. I don't give it power. But again, that takes practice. Commercials are very good at getting us to go get what they're trying to sell, which is probably sugar.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other things just for today. This is a great tip. I learned this through the addiction community, but it definitely applies for someone that's trying to cut down on sugar. You can play this trick with yourself. And I have many people that I'm working with right now that use this, is that when you're going through a craving, or you get triggered, or you see it, or your children are eating it, and you really kind of get that, okay, I'm going to eat that. But then you're like, no, I don't want to. If I do that, then I don't meet my boundary with sugar today. Play this trick with yourself. Okay, just for today, I'm not going to eat that cookie or whatever. Just for today, I'm going to stay within the sugar limits. Tomorrow, I can do whatever I want. But for today, I'm going to stick with the limits. And then when tomorrow comes, you can reset. Okay, just for today, I'm going to follow the sugar limits. And when you have such a bite size, anyone, for the most part, can move through cravings for a day and can be successful for a day. So it makes it very micro of the commitment of time that you're going to do something, and it can really help people. For instance, in Alcoholics Anonymous, this is like the bread and butter of how people do it one day at a time. And 30 years later, they're getting a 30-year chip of being clean and sober for 30 years because they did it one day at a time. So I wanted to bring that in as a very effective strategy. Also, idle hands are trouble hands. If you get busy, if you start having cravings or you start having thoughts about sneaking the brownie, get busy doing something. And if you enjoy it, better. Whenever I pick up my guitar, 3 hours can go by and I've just like I didn't even realize. And if I'm having a sugar craving and I pick up my guitar, very quickly I forget about it. So as a prep and a strategy, pick up knitting, having a coloring book nearby, your favorite music ready to go, whatever it is. Getting busy during a craving can help you pass through the craving.
Distraction.
Huh?
Distraction is the key.
Yes. I have another guy, he was having the hardest time after dinner until I offered brush your teeth right after dinner. I did not know this about him, but he's like this teeth clean freak. I didn't know. And it was just one of my sometimes I'm just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing if something will stick with one of the people I'm working with. And so he tried that and he's like, Shauna, and he's laughing and he's like, it worked. None of your other suggestions worked. But if I brush my teeth after dinner, I'm not going for the brownies and cookies. And so he's just like, he's so happy that he's found something that worked. So a lot of people do this, brush your teeth after dinner. If the dessert, ice cream bowl or whatever is like your thing, you have to have dessert after dinner, but that's going to make or break whether or not you stay in limits. Try brushing your teeth. And he flosses too. He like brushes and flashes. He's like, okay, I cannot like ruin this. And so he's been sticking with this diet because of it. For me, my favorite is I do sugar-free candies. Now, some people are like, they're not into it, but I found a few. I like the sugar-free toffee or butterscotch, and I do some Atkins pecan clusters. So if I want something, but I'm really trying to keep my carbs low, I just have a little pecan cluster, a little bit of sugar. There's maybe a couple grams, so 2 or 3 or something. That's something I do. My husband, he does a cup of blueberries with a little bit of cream, and that's his new ice cream. So there's, everyone's got their little tips and tricks with what to do to kind of substitute. Sugar-free sweeteners.
Oh, before you move on, I just wanted to add the little cup of berries with the cream. You'll be amazed after 3 days how sweet that tastes. It
Yes.
will no longer feel like a lesser than substitute. It will feel like an extravagant dessert when you limit your sugar. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, that tastes really good.
And then, I didn't think to bring this up, but this is huge, that I did a study where I ate plants for 6 weeks, and I just thought that was crazy, but I can do anything for 6 weeks. And so I ate nothing but plants for 6 weeks. And the dude running the study was like, oh, your taste buds will change. And I'm like, that's crazy. There's no way my taste buds are going to change. You're just saying that. It totally happened, and it happened pretty quickly. So be amazed. I've had so many people practice a low carb, low sugar type of diet. And when they went back to eating like birthday cake or a special event or whatever, they said it was too sweet.
Yep, it becomes gross.
Yeah. So it is kind of cool that your taste, but when you're blasting your taste buds with sugar, like manufactured sugar, it's such an overload. But if you take that away, and then, like you said, just eating blueberries, it's very luxurious. If you'll just kind of switch what you're eating. Just a couple others. Some people are not into sugar-free sweeteners. Some, it's the only way they get through. So do what y'all do. At this point, I only do stevia, which is kind of like a root that you can find. It's in a dropper, and you can find it at Sprouts, those kind of health food places. Some people are, kind of transitioning with Splenda or one of the others. But again, there's like another health risk with that. Everyone can make their own decision about it. And again, kind of doing the healthy fats and proteins along the way.
I wanted to say one thing about the sugar-free sweeteners, which is that for those of you who might have children, this becomes particularly challenging. I have gone through removing sugar from the household with 2 children. So I will be available to answer questions about that if any of you do have kids. But I will say you will want to have some sort of like sugar-free sweetener on hand to get the kids through it. I personally used monk fruit. I did use liquid stevia. You will get an email about those as well. But ultimately you can get liquid versions, which are usually a little bit less processed than powder versions. And you can like make a fruit smoothie with just like fruit and, whatever we use coconut milk, but whatever milk or whatever, and then you just add a few drops of that, and the kids are like, wow, this is amazing. And it doesn't add to their sugar. Now, you don't want to just down, liquid sweeteners, right, all the time. Like, they have their limit for health as well, but it can help get other family members on board.
Yeah. When I do fruit smoothies, a lot of frozen fruit, any fruit these days, unless you're growing it yourself, it kind of lacks a lot of the nutrients and sugars, or they're picking it before it's ripe, those kinds of things. And so if I'm doing like a mango and strawberry smoothie and I just do a couple drops of stevia, it brightens the flavor of the strawberry and the mangoes. So I use that quite often if I want a nice tasty smoothie. And I also put either a nut like walnuts or cashews, or a nut butter that doesn't have sugar in it, like just a natural nut butter, in my smoothie, and it makes it very satiating. And it also helps even the sugar within the fruit sugar kind of level off, so you don't get the sugar high and the sugar low. Yeah, and substitute with fruit. I'm gonna show you right now. I use chewing sugarless gum a lot. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I have at least 3 flavors on hand, sometimes 5. That is probably one of my go-tos, but again, everyone's got their go-to. Some people are like, oh, I hate chewing gum, or it hurts my jaw. For me, chewing gum hurts my jaw, so I break them up into little pieces, but that can definitely help me, especially if I'm starting out after like the holidays. I enjoyed some sugar. And so when Monday came, I went back to how I usually eat, which is I'm not doing Christmas. That's not how I normally eat, is have Christmas cookies after lunch. So I've been chewing gum, and it definitely helps me get through, but everyone's got to kind of find their thing. And I'm really hoping that next week when we start practicing, that we can have, hey, I tried this, hey, I did this, so that we can kind of share with each other.
One of my favorite things I just want to share with you is like 85% dark chocolate. When you're having a craving and you're really trying to limit it, and you have a piece of chocolate, you're like, I'm having chocolate and it feels like a dessert, but it's not. But then I have more and I want more. If you eat that whole bar, it's like 9 grams of sugar. It's okay. You know what I mean? So like sometimes it's nice to have something like that on hand just in case.
Yeah, dark chocolate can be also very satiating very quickly if you'll just kind of allow to fully, if you're going to do some dark chocolate, I mean, like really take your time with it and allow yourself to feel that pleasure, and then let it satiate you. I think people that just reach and reach and reach and reach and reach, there's almost like an unconsciousness. It's like, hold on, just if you're going to eat it, like enjoy it, slow down, let it satiate you, enjoy it, instead of kind of this reach, 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 reach. And an hour later, you're like, oh my God, I ate the whole bag of potato chips. So yeah. So again, these were just some ideas that Katie and I kind of threw together to get you all started. Also the tips and tricks, the grocery list, how to read labels, that's all really important. So I wanted to kind of just open it up. I know we're kind of at time. I apologize. I was hoping to stay on time and have a little bit of room for questions and comments. If people can stay on for a couple more minutes, is there anything else out there? Comment, question, response?
I'm actually going to end the recording now so that everyone can ask freely without being worried about being recorded.
Awesome.
But stick with us because next week we'll be meeting again.
Right on.